each of the squads out there this offseason. Looking at the current champs, Kevin Pelton thinks they can win by trying to persuade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams to take slightly less than their max. Mike Tannenbaum is clapping on that one, a former GM. David, Perk, Mike T, based on this conversation, obviously, this leads us to a bigger one. Should players take less? Mike, we'll start with you. For rings.
Well, first of all, I'm really glad that Perk is remote here because I know he's not going to agree with me, and I don't want to be attacked the way he did with that official. But look, we competed against Tom Brady for so many years, as you well know, Evan. And what was so frustrating was Tom Brady was an all-time great player and an all-time great teammate because he took less money. That put all the other teams at a competitive disadvantage. And when you're Tom Brady and you're as iconic as he is with all those titles, you're going to make so much money off the field, which he's proving each and every day, guys. What a massive platform he has rightly earned. So if I am OKC and I could keep this incredible sort of like 2-3 guys together, this core nucleus for a number of years, that's going to give you a sustainable competitive advantage that long-term you should be able to make up because you're going to have this platform much the way Tom Brady did.
Tom Brady was already took less. Like, Tom Brady took less by a salary cap, by caps. That's when players are already taking less. LeBron James at $52 million is already taking less money than he is worth. LeBron James is worth $150 million, $200 million, whatever, $1 billion to that Lakers franchise. I just don't believe in a system in which billionaires determine that we're going to cap how much money you make, and then they're going to ask you to take less in order for them to succeed. They're the ones with the money. That's why I support when LeBron James says, I'm not taking less money no matter what, because this is a system that you have created as billionaires to save yourselves money. So don't come to me then asking me to give you even more money when I'm already worth $500,000, $1 billion, and I'm sitting there making a measly $50 million. It's just not fair to the players.
Perk?
Well, I wouldn't call it a measly $50 million. $50 million should never.
It's a measly $50 compared to what those owners are making. $1 billion. It is measly in comparison.
I understand, but here's the thing: I would never tell the players to take less money to go chase rings ever in life. I get it. As fans, we watch the game, and as fans, we want to see teams and superstars go and try to win titles, but this is a job for these guys. And the first priority is to go and perform at a high level and get as much money as you possibly can, because it don't last forever. We don't see cases like a LeBron James where he could play for 20 to 25 years, right? The average NBA year, I remember, is probably, 3.5 to 5 years. You max out and get your dollars and then worry about championships. You get your money and then you leave it on the front office to make sure that they're able to go get guys and put players around you so you can compete. But you don't leave nothing on the table. This is what you worked hard for your entire life. And a lot of guys, especially in the basketball world, come from similar backgrounds. We saw the guy, VJ, who got drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. Did you hear his story? He said his mom and him and his siblings lived on a generator for 7 years. I would never tell that man to take less money to go chase championships or rings, especially if he's out there putting in the work and earning the money.
Yeah, so 2 points. Like, one, from a front office perspective, I used to use the verb allocate, not spend, because we were going to spend as much as we could. So it was a question of how you're going to allocate. And Perk, you're making a fair point about rookie contracts. My point is, if you go to SGA, LeBron, at some point the money, $250, $275, $300 million, if you leave a little bit on the table, and that's going to help the greater good. It's not going to go in my pocket. It's not going in the coach's pocket, but we can help the team much the way we saw Tom Brady, especially as he got later in his career. Well, we just saw Aaron Rodgers take $10 million. They added Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. He clearly could have gotten more money. So my point is, when you get to some point like Aaron Rodgers, like a LeBron James, like a Tom Brady, and you can shift that money to help you win, you're going to make it in the long term. I mean, look at these guys. LeBron will be an owner. Tom Brady has an ownership with the Raiders. So, like, to me, there is a time and a place that you could recoup that investment.
The time is now to recoup that investment. The time is now when I am playing right now, because you cannot bank on money in the future when you have generations and families to take care of and all that stuff. I'm taking my money now. Nobody is asking owners to sacrifice dollars. Nobody's asking owners to sacrifice money. We don't go to the table and say, owners, you have to pay, earn less money. They are making their money outside already also. This is not fair to these players to ask them to go into collective bargaining where you are a billionaire and you hold all the leverage because you know that you can hold out for longer than those players, and you have already capped the potential for what these players can earn, and then double back and say, hey, take $5 million less so I can get a guy off the bench and come there. Because if you're looking at the NBA, the money is there. You just don't want to pay a luxury tax. You don't want to pay that, but you have the money to pay that if you wanted to. They just don't want to pay a tax, which is, a thing that billionaires don't want to do in general. But that's
they're billionaires.
Right. But you're asking LeBron James to take a $5 million pay cut. That's 10% of his earnings. Right, from that year, right? Ask a billionaire, ask one of those owners to lose 10% of their earnings, see what they say.
And you know what else? I would tell players to consider taking less money if owners would actually invite them into their community once they're retired. We don't see that often, right? Like, we don't see owners putting out a platform for players that played in their organizations, and especially superstar players, to come and invest in some of the things that they invested in to get to that point. So if they did have that door open for players, then yeah, if I'm a superstar, yes, I do take less money. If you're saying, hey, you know what, you're my guy, I'm going to show you how to make some of these billions that I just made. But they don't do that. So no, if I'm a player, I'm not taking less.
I think there's only one logical way for a player to take less, and that is when the player is doing it with other players and they are handing their contracts to governorship, ownership in the NBA. That if Shea, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren decide, here's how we're going to do this because we know the max value, we're smart, we talk to our agents, and we're saying to the owners and governors, here's what it is. We're doing this for each other. We're not doing this for you. We're doing this because we know where this money is going. You mentioned Brady. Brady famously took less, thinking he was going to do it for Wes Welker. Wes Welker signed with the Broncos. To the NFL we go. Max Crosby of the Raiders, attending the annual SAC Summit, told The Athletic, quote, anytime you go out there, you want to be in a position to win. Individual success and things like that are awesome. We just saw it in the NBA. OKC, just a couple of years ago, was one of the worst teams in the league. But they had a lot of young guys. They trusted the process. They developed, and now they're world champions. A lot of optimism around the Vegas Raiders right now and from the Vegas Star. So, guys, Mike T, we'll start with you. Which NFL team will have the biggest turnaround this year?
Cincinnati Bengals. And you go back last year, it started on opening day when Mike Gesicki kind of fumbled the ball through the end zone, and they lost to a New England Patriot team that they had no business losing to. Look, this team is going to be prolific on offense. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think the key is going to be Trey Hendrickson obviously getting his contract situated, and then guys, Shamar Stewart, who again, they got to work out his contract. I believe they will. Those are two great pass rushers, or one with a lot of potential, I should say. Bill Walsh, the all-time great coach of the 49ers, used to talk about pass to score and then have fourth quarter pass rushers. That's sort of the way Cincinnati's built. I think Al Golden will do a really good job as the first-year defensive coordinator. So if they're even middle of the pack on defense, this will be a hard team to beat.
How many times they get off to a slow start and we just make excuses for them? Like they're gonna get off to a quick start this year?
Yeah, offensively, this will be a team that should score in the 30s every week, Evan. And again, if Hendrickson and Stewart are there, I think they could close out games.
I don't know why we'd assume they would be at this point, but you're probably right about that. Graz?
Where else are they going to go?
Well, no, I agree, but it's probably not a good thing that that's happening right now with two holdouts. The turnaround team for you?
The 49ers. I actually think this is an easy answer. They won 6 games last year because of injuries, and were in the Super Bowl the year before. So I see a bounce back. A lot of the attention this offseason has been about the guys that they no longer have, right? I mean, Deebo Samuel and the guys on defense that are in Denver now, right? Greenlaw and Hufanga. But there's still so many good players on this team, and great ones. I mean, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey coming back healthy. They have Brock Purdy locked up, and they believe in him at quarterback. Losing Deebo, trading away Deebo, and Brandon Ayuk coming back off injury, but they've drafted at receiver to an extent that they've been anticipating this. The schedule looks, again, very difficult to tell, but based on last year's records and all that, schedule looks pretty soft for the 49ers. I see them bouncing back in a big way. It's a coaching staff and a core group that has proven it can win at an extremely high level.
I'm so glad you said that. Everybody talks about the mass exodus. Oh, Brock Purdy's lost all these guys. Who are we talking about that's the mass exodus for them? You mentioned Deebo, but they drafted Ricky Pearsall to replace him. Juwan Jennings is excellent, and they signed him to a very team-friendly deal at that wide receiver position. David Dennis Jr., is there one for you?
So I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna break a tie here. I'm gonna dock Dan some points. I feel like the 49ers are just too obvious. I feel like they're gonna. I don't know if it's a turnaround if everybody's gonna be healthy and they're gonna be
They won
good
6
again.
games.
I think they're gonna be. I think it's a little obvious.
Wait, why is that obvious when so many people are saying, well, Brock Purdy can't carry a team?
I don't think he's gonna need to carry a team. They're just getting healthy. They're just getting being a healthy team. Like this happens to NFL teams all the time. They have this deluge of injuries and they come back and everything's fine. I think the 49ers seem like a no-brainer that they're going to be competitive again this year, right? For me, I'm with Mike here about the Bengals. I think that they're going to be a turnaround because their defense, if you just have a marginally better defense, just a little bit, that offense can carry. And, we talked about the Bengals last time I was here. I compared them to the Drew Brees Saints. And all you need is a marginal defense to go someplace with that team. And they have the pieces to do that. That offense is going to be unstoppable.
And just to add to David's point, taking away Patrick Mahomes, like arguably you would say if you were starting a team today, Joe Burrow is certainly in that conversation. That's how good he is.
The assignment was turnaround. I didn't look at any teams that had winning records last year, like the Bengals did. The Niners were 6-11. I mean, that's something to turn around from. So that was why I went with that. I think the Bengals would be better.
Well, yeah, maybe you should have taken a deeper dive.
I guess. I just think a turnaround. It has to be somebody who was bad last year. Bengals weren't.
Bengals could win one more game, make the playoffs. Is that a turnaround?
Yeah.
How is that a turnaround?
I'll bet you that the Niners win total this year is greater than last year's by a more significant number than the Bengals is.
Right, but I think going non-playoff to playoff is the definition of a turnaround.
The 49ers weren't in the playoffs.
I didn't say they were.
All right, I'm just saying.
But it's a one-game improvement.
Yeah.
Why are we capping them at 10 wins, Evan?
Do you think they'll win 11 games?
They could.
If ESPN Bet has the over-under, I'm making this up at 10.5, you would take the over?
2-game improvement.
You would take the over in that division in the AFC North.
But what I'm saying is once they get into the playoffs, who's going to want to play that offense?
Yeah, we've got to stop with this. The Bengals had one run, one time. They beat Mahomes. I get that, and that's impossible to do. And yet we somehow rank Joe Burrow and that team over the team that actually beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl and competed with him the first time. It's mind-boggling to me.
Burrow last year was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a terrible GM.
Well,
he's a terrible GM. He wants his wide receivers paid. The defenders are not paid. You said as long as they get a competent defense.
Have you seen his wide receivers? I would want them too.
Your best pathway to winning is having that type of unstoppable
But that's what they
offense.
had last year.
Wait, Evan, hold on a second. When did he say not to pay Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah, he actually said to pay Trey Hendrickson.
But
that was on his list.
It was very focused on the two wideouts. They're unbelievable. But when you pay a quarterback that kind of money, you pay for one receiver. You don't pay for two.
Well, we'll find out. The Eagles pay $2, right, at $25 million plus a year.
They paid them early, though.
The Dolphins are paying $2 at $25 million plus a year, right? Not working out great. So it's unusual. There's no doubt about it. But look, you lean into your strengths, right? If the Bengals are going to have success long term around Burrow, they're going to have to draft well on defense and get maximum value out of players on that side of the ball in their rookie contracts because they are leveraged on offense.